Yet another thing to do.
You know?
I can see where this has become a hobby.
I like it out here, man. It makes me happy.
I don't blame you. It's sweet.
It's a cool little spot.
Oh, it is sweet. I mean, it's, well, it's a long time coming, but, when you got it done, it's really nice.
It's worth it.
For sure.
It was definitely worth it. That being said, I looked at my, the credit card, because everything I've bought for out here, I've bought on one.
Look at the credit card, the damage was heavy.
Everything, because I'll buy something, I'll pay it down, so I've never, carried a large balance. Or
right.
Like, right now, I think the balance is, $28 or whatever. But I looked at how much in the last year I have spent on that credit card, and it was $5,000, just short of. So $4,800, and that was, Debbie bought the materials, and the AC unit, so that's $2,500 easy that I didn't have, that didn't come out of us. Plus all the free labor from all of my friends coming over here and helping us out,
Well,
and the carpet's not on that credit card. The carpet's on a different credit card, so I didn't think about that. So yeah, we're probably $8,000 or $9,000 into this place.
Yeah. Well,
considering it had no ceiling.
I don't think you could get it done for less.
No, it had no ceiling. It had no floor. It had no power.
No, it had none of the above.
No, I like it. How's it look?
It looks good.
Does it?
Yeah.
Sweet. We've been recording the whole time too. I figured that way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that way. Worst case scenario, if we could just, I don't have to get up and push record. We could just roll into what we're doing.
Okay,
Sounds
good.
And we can clip some shit.
Yeah. Sorry. Edit. It's called edit.
Well, this is the first time I've sat down in the studio to do anything, and I'm really glad that I'm doing it with you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I said when we got these chairs, I was like, I don't want anybody's ass in these chairs until you get to sit down with me. I didn't want. Short of us sitting down.
I was going to say, come on, they're king queen chairs.
Well, yeah, but I didn't want to do any of this until I sat down with you.
Well, that's great.
I've messed around in there making some music, but it's not the same thing. That's just me. That's me and Grant making noise. That's fun. It's not the same thing.
Making noise.
So, and the whole thing, finding this book, Facebook got me on Facebook marketing. It is the Dad, I Want to Hear Your Story book. And I don't remember when I saw it. It was a couple of months after you ended up in the hospital, and I saw it and I was like, well, that's just perfect,
Right.
And then when you told me that you couldn't fill it out because your hands, I thought, what a better way than to actually sit down and have the conversation.
Well, the sad part was I could read it, and now I can't read it.
Well, now you don't have to because I'm going to read it to you.
My cataracts are so bad, I can't read it.
Well, I'm going to read it to you, so you don't got to worry about that.
Cool.
It's like, in my mind, it's kind of like having an old VHS tape. Except for we're not in the middle of, like when Mom sent me the VHS tapes that she found, like with me riding, not in the handlebars, but like riding with you on the motorcycle and learning to swim and stuff. It's cool, but it's not the same thing. Because this is, no matter what, I'll always be able to look back and listen to my conversation with you. So to me, that's precious.
Well, that's great.
So now
I can provide a voice.
Sometimes. So I haven't really looked through this whole thing, minus the, the stuff that it got me on the initial sales. But the title.
It's kind of chronological.
Yeah. Well, I see it starts with family background, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So let's see. What's the first thing on here that grabs me to ask you?
You want the family background?
Well, what's your full name and when were you born? What's your password information? What's your social security? Don't answer any of those questions.
Don't answer any of those. No. Where'd you get that book?
Yeah.
Dark web.
Where'd it come from?
China.
China.
Okay, the family background thing does make me think because your name's James, Grandpa's name was James, my middle name's James.
Right.
I feel like that's a family name. Is it?
Well,
or
it became one.
But did it start with Grandpa? Or?
No, my father had an uncle named James, lived in Pennsylvania. I don't think I ever met him, but it is kind of a family name in that respect.
Okay.
His father's name was George. Long way from James.
Kind of.
But they were English people, so everybody was like Thomas, James, George, no Enriquez or anything like that.
How far removed was Grandpa from being, like an immigrant here, do you think?
He was born here.
Well, I know Grandpa was, but I mean, was his grandfather?
No, his father was born here.
Okay.
His father was born here, but I don't know when, really. But apparently his people emigrated to the States, and then he was born here. So he grew up in the States,
Okay.
But they grew up English.
Yeah. Well, I knew Grandpa grew up here, but I didn't know how far removed, we were from, being,
Yeah.
coming off the boat here.
Yeah, no, pretty far. I mean, certainly not Mayflower, but pretty far.
Far enough, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any interesting stories about your ancestors?
The only thing I can really remember about my grandparents, my grandmother was hard. She did not like my mother. She thought my mother was well beneath my father. So she treated my mother like shit. And because we were the offspring, we didn't get much better. I don't know. She was hard. But my grandfather, I can remember him. I remember the way he smelled more than anything, because he smelled like an old man, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
he would get me in his lap I was little. And I remember he used to yell at the TV for wrestling. And my father always said that's what killed him, that he had a heart attack yelling at the TV over a wrestling match in the 50s.
Okay.
So,
What's funny is I can remember in my mind, I can almost, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that I can remember exactly what Pop smelled like. Because I remember when I was a kid, when Pop passed away, I got that glass cologne bottle that was shaped like a train.
yeah.
And I had it forever.
Right.
And that to me smelled like Pop,
There you go.
So like I'm sure if I smelled it now, it would instantly make me think of it. Like just like when every time I smell a fresh cut grass makes you think of you.
Or fireworks.
Or fireworks. Fresh cut grass, fireworks, and a spent bonfire.
There you go.
Like I have literally gone to bonfires and brought extra clothes just so the next day my clean clothes would smell like a bonfire, because I love the smell of a bonfire.
Yeah, me too.
And I blame you for that one, bud.
That's Jersey.
Yeah.
Everybody in Jersey likes a good fire, even if you have to start it yourself.
Another thing that about Pop, like when I was a kid, one of the first times that I remember being terrified was because of Pop. And it was when he got me that voice-changing transformer mask.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Because during the day,
that.
Yeah, during the day it was great. I loved it. We were having a good time with it. And then I went and laid down. And then Pop came in and was saying goodbye or whatever. But I was half asleep, and I wake up to Optimus Prime.
I think Mom has a still picture of that.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. But
I think she does on her desk.
yeah, because I remember being terrified when he came in and woke me up. It was one of the first times that I remember being truly scared.
I thought now I realize how much I am like my dad, because my dad was cracking jokes. Like, he really messed with Aunt Claire when he was dying. His heart was crapped out, and he was in the hospital. And he back then there was two people in a room. It wasn't a private room like now. They're all that way. But then it was you split a room. And so my dad says to Claire, he says, Frank, whatever his name was, like he knew the guy, he says, Frank over there, he says, say hi to him. Claire opens because they just had a curtain between the two. Claire slides the curtain back and the dude's dead. My father just laughed his ass off. Aunt Claire was freaked out.
Poor Aunt Claire.
That was my dad. He just, anything for a laugh, I guess.
You know what? That speaks volumes as to how Aunt Claire is, who she is. Because, growing up with Grandpa and then you and Uncle Jeff, with her being, raised by feral men.
Right. Well, sadly, I didn't really have anything to do with Claire when she was little. You know what I mean?
were.
I was in the Army, and, when I came back, she was just, a little kid, but, man, I bonded with her right away because she's Aunt Claire. You had to love her. I'll never forget, we're sitting on the front porch, and she had two cats, OD1 and OD2. OD1, I don't remember what killed that one, but OD2, we were sitting there on the porch, and it was me and a couple other people and Claire in the summer. And the cat comes walking across the street, her cat, and she's going, Odie, Odie. And the cat walks up to her and gets maybe from me to the light and drops dead. Someone had poisoned it. And she goes, what's wrong with the cat? And whoever I was with, and I wish I could remember who, they go, it's dead. Just like that to a 5-year-old. Just announced, it's dead. It was so sad. So she is traumatized the more I think about it.
Here's a question. If you think back to Grandma and Grandpa together, what is one memory that you have of the two of them together that really makes you happy if you think about it? Because I know if I think back about me, you, and Mom, I can think of a couple in particular.
Oh, yeah. I can't. No, I really can't. I can remember, you know, they were basically, to me, they were two separate people. You know, Grandpa was easygoing, kind of like my dad,
Yeah.
and Grandma was hard. You know, and Grandma was hard because she had been a school teacher, you know, a professional, and when she got married, she had to quit. Back then, you couldn't be married and be a school teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it was. So she kind of resented, I think, that, you know what I mean, that she had to give up her career. And when I say career, I don't really know what that was all about. But I don't really recall. The only time I really recall seeing the two together is in a picture I have of them.
Okay.
And short of that, I don't really remember them be. I mean, they were in the same house and, you know, whatever. But I don't really remember them being, like, particularly affectionate or anything like that, you know.
Okay. Because, like, for me, one of the main ones that sticks out in my mind is the shoe cow moment with Mom. Yeah, like when we were on the road trip and all the cows were in the middle of the road. And Mom,
The mooies.
Yeah, the movies. Mom got out of the car and was just, shoo, moo cow, shoo. And I remember me and you sitting in the van just cracking up.
Oh, yeah, that
Because
was-
I think Mom had, like, lost it a little bit from being in the van for so long. And then all the cows were there. She just took it upon herself.
Yeah,
like, that
okay.
one stands out to me, like, really well. You know, like, that
Oh,
one's, like,
yeah.
pretty vivid. You know, I have a lot of memories of, like, us traveling around and stuff. But that
Traveling
one
was good. Yeah, we traveled a lot. And it was fun.
yeah, which I'm, by the way, super thankful for. But, you know, that's
Yeah, me too.
I'm real lucky because, like, you know, I've talked to people about where they've been, what they've seen, and I, you know, like I've seen the Grand Canyon, and we went to the crater, which you sent, which, by the way, I saw you sent me the other day on Facebook, which was cool because I got like read a little bit about it. But going to Niagara Falls, going through California, which I got to take Bernadette to go through. Some
That
of
was
that.
cool. That was very cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Until she discovered why the glass beach smells like poo.
Well,
You can't win them all.
that's right. You got to give to get. You know, you want that glass, you got to put up with the stench.
All right. Do you can you think of any like family legends that have been told that you were told by like your uncles or whatever about your dad? Like anything that you didn't know until somebody else told you. Maybe a legend might not be the right word there. But.
Right. Yeah. You know, I didn't. My aunt, who was in her 90s, my Aunt Edith, who was my dad's sister.
Yeah.
She was still. Everybody else had passed away, and she was still alive. And Mom and I went to see them. It's been quite a while ago now, but we drove over there. She's passed now, but we drove over there to see her. And I did something similar. I said, you know, I asked her a few questions that I had, you know, and she answered what I had, and I don't even remember what I had. But then she elaborated on, you know, thoughts of her own. And she started telling me about how my dad had actually been engaged to a totally different person than my mom, and that he was like, you know, he was my dad was an athlete. He was a gymnast, you know, before he screwed his back up. You know, he was a gymnast, and that's how he screwed his back up. But he was, he was engaged to some other girl, and then the more he got to know her and her situation, her parents, and you know, he started feeling like he was inferior because they were wealthy people, apparently. And you know, our family is nobody super wealthy, but I guess he felt, I don't know, obligated to break it off because he wasn't of the same station, you know, in life or whatever. So, and my aunt always said that was the love of his life. And I said, well, what about my mom? And my aunt says, well, he married your mom. But that's all she would comment on it. So it was like, I guess my mom maybe was second best. You know, I don't really know in my aunt's mind, but I didn't know that at all.
Well, you know, I didn't know that you were engaged to somebody before Mom until, well, I think recently, but it's probably 10 years or so now but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know, in my mind, you and Mom just appeared on Earth together. You know, I mean, I know that's not the case, but I didn't know that. And Aunt Claire was the one that she mentioned it.
Well, Aunt Claire was really tight with my my ex fiance or whatever you'd call her, Pat. She loved Claire, you know. And like I said, Claire was a little girl in a house full of men, and you know, and Pat was like, you know, she'd take her places and you know do stuff with her when she was probably pretty little then. You know, maybe 7 or 8 years old.
What's the age difference with you and Aunt Claire? Because I know you're
14.
Yeah, I know you're quite a bit older. But I don't know.
We're all 7 years apart. I was the oldest, then Jeff was 7 years after me, and then Claire was 7 years after him.
Okay.
And the weird thing is, in our family, now you don't know any of them because they're up north, but they're all 7 years apart too. So I grew up with cousins that were my age. Jeff grew up with cousins that were his age, and Claire grew up with cousins that were her age. What the fuck is that about? You know, I've often wondered how did they just all get together and go, oh, it's time for more kids? Whatever. I have no idea. But that is the way it is, 7 years apart.
All right. So this section is, I mean, the whole thing I'm still looking at is all family background. And this one, it caught me because it says family traditions, holidays, and celebrations. Describe how your family celebrates major holidays. So, like, when you were growing up, how did you guys celebrate holidays? I know how we do it now, and I love it. We have such a good time.
Oh,
It's so much fun.
yeah, really. Well, that's why, because when I was a kid, you know, a lot of times my dad was, you know, he was a mess. He broke his back, and, you know, then he was at work, and they broke it again, or put it back. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him because it had been broken for years, and when he fell, it went back to where it should be and almost crippled him because it looked good on X-ray, but it had been wacky for years.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, the holidays especially, my dad spent a lot of time in the hospital. I remember we didn't really... I mean, one holiday I'll never forget. We got the crappiest toys you could imagine. And I mean, I might have been little, but I knew shit when I saw it. These were like the little Japanese wind up pressed steel, you know, little things. I was like, what the hell's with this? You know, where's my Lone Ranger stuff? Where's my Red Ryder BB gun? Where's my, you know,
shoot your eye out, kid.
Which was sad because, I mean, even as a kid, you're kind of jaded. You want good shit, you know, and instead they had no money. You know, my dad wasn't working. He was in the hospital. My mother had no money. For a while, we had to go live with my grandparents. It was that bad. So my holiday traditions, and they were okay. I mean, I remember we had Christmas one time, a cat knocked tree over, you know, that kind of thing. I do remember that. But the one that stands out was the shittiest Christmas ever. That's the one that stands out. And other than that, you know, like New Year's, I don't recall us doing anything. You know, they didn't have, my parents didn't have parties to speak of. They did, I guess, maybe when I was young, because I do remember, you know, people at the house.
Yeah.
But then by the time Jeff was born, my mom was getting sick, so they didn't, you know, they just kind of shut down for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. We have way better parties.
Yeah, we do.
We have way better parties. And that's a tradition that you better carry on.
Oh.
Believe me, I know you will.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in good hands in that respect. You and Byrne, I never give it a second thought. You know, if
Johnny
I checked
House.
out tomorrow, I'm not worried about it at all. You guys are look around. I mean, you know, you're
got
well
this.
on your way to doing whatever you want to do and doing it well. And, you know, and the lady behind the camera, same boat, you know, so it's good. The bulldog. There you go. Somebody asked me the other day, I said, my daughter Bernadette, and they said, oh, Bernadette. And I said, yeah, but I call her the bulldog. And they looked at me like, what?
So you don't know. You don't understand.
That's right. No, she
Like,
doesn't,
that's endearment
She
for
doesn't
sure.
look like a bulldog. She is a bulldog. You better start flipping some pages.
Can
there,
you
buddy.
describe your very first memory? It could be of a place, a person, or event. Just anything that stands out vividly.
My only first memory is when I was little and I was in a crib. And I was like in a, you know, that's how little I was. I definitely remember being in my crib, standing up on the edge of the crib, looking out at the room, thinking, wow, if I could get out of this crib, you know, I could get out into the room, because basically you just lived in your crib, you know. And yeah, that's the earliest thing I can remember.
And one of my first memories is being in my crib too, looking out the side window at the house in Lake Monroe at the creek.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's one of my first memories.
that's a good memory.
Yeah.
At least
Well-
because that was a nice spot.
It was a really cool spot. I remember like learning how to build a dam over there. Well, not learning how to build a dam, but you know what I mean? Like,
Right, building.
sticks and mud
Right.
and, you know, craking it off. And then catching that giant crawfish the one time.
Remember that? Yeah, that was a big.
That was a big, because we caught crawfish all the time.
Right,
But that
but
one
no, that
was
was a big one. That was a lobster.
Yeah. Well, I remember bringing it in and everybody in the house was like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you used to bring a lot of stuff in the house.
Well, I mean, I brought a deer back to a campsite one time.
That's true too. Came back with a deer.
I remember Mom freaking out because this deer followed me back.
That was a big ass deer too.
It wasn't little.
No,
It was not little.
Way bigger than you.
All right, so here's one. Describe your first day of high school. Do you remember how you felt? Like when you were going in, do you remember being afraid
Well,
of high school? Do you remember being
nope.
excited for it?
Nope, because I had been in high school, the brick and mortar building, since 6th grade. When I was in 6th grade, they built a couple of new schools, elementary schools. And one was way on one end of town and one was way on the other end of town. So they took, for whatever reason, one class of kids that lived within walking distance to the high school, and we were the 6th grade class, the only one in the high school. And the high school was a junior high and a high school all in the same building. So there we were, 6th grade. You're what, 12 years old? And you're in with 18-year-olds who take your lunch money and kick your ass every day. You know what I mean? Just because they could. And so that 6th grade class, those friends and stuff that I made in that 6th grade class, because 7th grade, then the other elementary school kids came to the high school.
You're not at the bottom of the totem pole anymore.
Right, but we'd already been there, you know what I mean? So we knew the drill, and we knew you really want to be basically, you know, the big fish in a little pond. So we became the badasses. Like pretty much, and it's sadly but true. I mean, you know, it was not a good thing, but it made us to what we were, and we were not good people. I mean, we came up, we were worse than the guys who had really treated us shitty.
Yeah.
But they never did a 6th grade again either. So, you know, that was a one-time deal.
Did you guys have a freshman Friday when you were in school?
No.
Yeah, that was not fun.
Yeah, we had none of that.
Freshman Friday was not fun. The only thing that helped me on Freshman Friday was like being friends with AJ, you know, Phil's brother.
Right.
So
you had somebody.
AJ and Tony and all of, like, you know, I mean, all the guys that were running around high school beating people up that were seniors when we were freshmen. They're like, no,
Right.
you guys don't mess with them. And I remember distinctly going from my science class running to Miss Neno's class so I wouldn't get thrown in the dumpster because they'd been threatening to throw me in the dumpster. It's like, you have to catch me.
Got to do what you got to do.
Run into Miss Neno's class, like AJ, help me!
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that one pretty distinctly.
What did you do to earn that distinction that you were getting tossed in the
That was just
dumpster?
freshman Friday. Like if you were a freshman,
Oh,
that
it just didn't matter.
It was the first. It was the first Friday of your freshman year. Like all the seniors would go after freshmen and
okay.
just prank you, beat you up, whatever. But
We
we
didn't-
were friends with AJ and Tony, so it's like. You're not going to beat up the kids. It's friends with the kids that beat up the kids. So,
Right.
so we
Right.
kinda,
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? We got to skate a little bit on that one. And Tony was. Do you remember when we used to have the rope swing that was down at the bottom of the hill at Plantation? That was by those two lakes.
Yeah.
Tony was the kid that would like go to the top of the tree with the rope swing and basically bungee jump with the swing. And everybody was like, this kid's crazy. You know what I mean? Because he was just doing stuff that was crazy.
Yeah,
so,
it was.
And it went around school how crazy Tony was. So nobody ever messed with Tony.
Well, there
you know
you
what I
go.
mean? And then Tony was AJ's best friend. So it was like, I was weird. We would like just, hey guys, what are you guys doing? Yeah. You know? So it was, it did.
Glom onto them. Huh?
It did help.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It did help. Did you do any extracurricular stuff? Like, were you involved in any sports or anything?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I played basketball. They made me play basketball. I'm not a fan. I didn't like basketball, but my school was full of like little Italian kids, and I was tall.
Yeah.
So, you know, they think because you're tall, you're going to be a good basketball player.
Jake.
I was, yeah. Well, there you go. But I was terrible. I didn't like that. I played soccer. Played that for a year. Soccer I liked. Actually, I was pretty famous amongst the soccer guys because I scored. My team was so shitty. I scored the winning goal in the only game we won that whole season I played, and it was it was typical. You watch soccer; it's almost like accidental,
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Right. And everybody was like, "Oh, that was the greatest," because it was the last game of the year. We had lost every game we'd played, and we won 1-0. I mean, so soccer's
Well,
like
I mean,
that.
so yeah, soccer 1-0 is big sometimes.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a big deal. I milked that for probably half a year.
Everybody else, I thought you were going to say you played baseball. As much as like you guys,
I played
as much
little
as you
league.
like baseball.
I played little league, but again, I was never any good at it. You know what I mean? I liked the game, but as far as talent, I didn't have any.
Yeah, I always like playing stuff instead of watching it though. I mean, I've never been somebody to
yeah,
watch football. I don't really watch baseball. And
Well, we used to play softball with
Playing
Uncle
softball
Jeff
was
all the
always fun.
time, and that was fun.
Yeah,
but that was like not like baseball. That was just
a family
everybody's
on the
hacking
and it was
around.
always Super Bowl Sunday, so we
Yeah.
were like, "Yo, football game, let's play baseball."
That's yeah. I missed that. That was a lot of
That
fun.
was a lot of fun. I mean, that park. I don't even think that park is still there anymore. I know the water tower's gone.
Is that?
Yeah, the water tower's been
I've
gone
never
for a
really
while.
noticed. Isn't there a wall there now? You can't even see down there. I think that's all walled off by Princeton and
Yeah.
it's all walled off
Yeah, they
all
put
the way
the
from
sound
all the
wall on
way
the
from
highway,
yeah.
But the water tower is gone. Because there's days like when I'm doing the Winter Park route or whatever, I'll be
look
over
for
there and
it.
I just kind of I'll go cruising through like Uncle Jeff's old neighborhood.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just to see if any of it like you know what I mean, like rings a bell. Like I'm sure I've driven past his old house if it's still there, but it does not. Like I don't ever see where it's at because it's not fresh in my brain like where to go or what it looked like. But driving through the neighborhood, like remember when we went to go deliver the cakes for Mom.
Right.
Driving through that neighborhood. Remember, I said then it made me think about being over
Right,
there because
yeah.
it's just it's the old like the brick streets and
Jeff's place was he was in College Park, which was nice.
yeah.
But that was the best, Claire and I, when we threw his ashes in those people's front yard. I'm sure they were like, "What the hell is that?" We just pulled up. I said, "She goes, what are we going to do?" I go, "Got to do a hit and run." she gets the damn Tupperware out and shakes it up, runs out, throws it in the yard, jumps in the car. We haul ass out of there.
That's fitting.
It was hit and run. It's perfect.
Then you guys put them on like each one of the starting lines at the drag strip too, didn't you?
Oh yeah. We put them everywhere. We took them to.
I know you guys like did like a trip. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
we put them in Daytona. We put them in Daytona. We couldn't get in the track to do the start finish line because it didn't go that far.
Yeah.
That was open to spectators or whatever. Not even spectators. I mean, at that point, there was nothing happening. So we just did what we could do there. But yeah, we did. Bithlow. We did Bradenton.
Yeah.
We took him to Lido Beach. Put him out there. He loved Lido Beach.
I know you did. I know he's down in Sarasota and
Right.
stuff.
Took him to Keys, put him in a planter in his favorite bar. There was a live planter. We're like, well, it's the best we can do. We put him in there.
Okay.
We took him down to Key West so he could be on both sides of the Atlantic and the Gulf, So yeah, we did. Yeah, he was happy. I still have a little bit left.
Good.
I have one Tupperware left of him. And I feel like
Tupperware.
I should put him somewhere cool, but I can't think of where to put him.
Here's one. Of personal projects when you were a kid, and I'm sure that yours are probably around mostly cars or motorcycles. Which one of those stands out as the most rewarding that you've done, that you can remember? Like, was it the first car you built, first motorcycle you put together, first car you flipped? You know what I mean?
They were all good, but what really stands out to me as something I built was a tree fort. I built a tree fort with a kid in Fair Lawn by my uncle's house, and it was a cat's ass tree fort. I mean, it was just so cool. It was 2 stories. It was in a, I don't even know what kind of tree it was, who paid attention, but it was high. We were up there pretty good, and there were crabapple trees around there. So we'd load up with crab apples, and then we would throw them at people from the fort. I thought that
What's
was
the point of having a tree fort if you can't throw stuff at
right.
people?
I mean, it's a fort. You know,
Yeah.
you got to defend it, even if the people you're hitting don't have any idea you're in the tree until they start getting slammed.
Robert Francisco had that tree fort in front of his house.
Oh,
And,
did he?
And he, I cannot remember the kid's name. I think his name was Dusty. It's a kid that used to hang out with Bobby all the time. And we were, Robert's sister, me, Robert, and Robert's sister were up in the tree fort, and Dusty came over with like the girl that he was, holding hands with. I say dating, but we're
Right,
kids.
kids.
And Robert's sister threw like a cut off lid from a can. Like if you cut like tomatoes or whatever,
yeah.
and she threw it, at them, and it hit him in the eyebrow, and just, ting! I mean, he ended up with like 15 stitches because it cut
Wow.
him. Oh yeah, it cut him all. It's the most blood I'd ever seen come out of anybody's face at the time.
Wow.
Oh, and it was just, and she didn't realize it was going to cut him. She, she was
Right,
just playing
right.
around. We were just throwing stuff. I mean, that same kid lit that treehouse on fire because we were, when you're a kid and you find out that spray paint makes a flamethrower torch.
Oh, yeah.
So we were doing that, but he had already painted a bunch of the wall and then hit it with the flame, with the flame torch,
So the
with
whole
the
thing
blowtorch.
went up.
The whole thing went up. Robert's dad was out there. We're trying to put it out. Robert's dad's yelling at us as we're all trying to put it out. Because we've caused a giant fire in the tree in front of his house.
That's that big tree in front of his house,
Yup.
that big oak, really?
We about burned it down.
I didn't know that.
We also almost burned down the woods that were behind Jeremy Crocker's dad's house.
Oh,
When the Robin Hood movie came out in the 90s with Kevin Costner, and they did the whole flaming arrow thing over the wall. We used to make the bow and arrows with the palm fronds. We would take shoestrings.
Yeah.
So we were doing that, and Jeremy came out and had soaked like a sock in kerosene and duct taped it to the end of one of those, lit it on fire, and shot it at us. Because in his mind, now he's in the movie, so he shoots this flaming arrow, which just lights the whole field on fire. Me, Robert, Travis, Dietrich, we're scattering because this whole field is on fire. Like, you had to call 911. Jeremy's dad was the guy that don't go for donuts.
Right.
And so he worked all night making donuts, and this was like 3 p.m. So we woke him up at 3 p.m. with all of the police, all of the cops in the fire department coming to put out their yard. Because we thought it'd be a good idea to shoot fire at each other.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It sounded good at the time, right?
It looked cool.
I bet.
It looked cool.
And now you know it really works.
Yeah. What was the first job that you had?
First job. I think the first job I had that I can remember was I was working in a handicap workshop for handicapped people. My dad was in the hospital. We were on welfare. We had no money. And the caseworker, whatever, for the welfare thing said, you had to be 16 to get what they call working papers in New Jersey. But I was only like 15. So they got me in this handicap workshop. And I don't know, well, maybe they knew something I didn't because I didn't think I was handicapped. But they put me in there, and it was down in Hackensack. And I remember working there, and it was really weird. I don't think it left me with the impression that I was never going to be as good as those handicapped people because they would do these jobs. The place was mostly like I want to say circuit boards, soldering stuff together.
Yeah.
I had a blind guy next to me who could do that shit. I wasn't worth a shit. I couldn't do it. I mean, it was, my hands weren't steady enough. I was globbing it on, I wasn't doing a good job. So but they kept me, and I guess because of that welfare connection or something, they kept me all summer, and I worked there all summer, but I would feel so bad, so inadequate being around those people that I would go, like for lunch, I would go down to this abandoned dock right on the Passaic River, and or Hackensack River, and I would just sit there and eat lunch. I couldn't even eat with those people, because they were just so much better than I was, as far as their abilities, and they didn't, they were handicapped. But like the blind guy, man, he read, Braille.
Yeah.
Oh man, I watch his hand go, and I'm like, shit, I can't even read regular letters. I mean, everything they did made me feel bad.
When you said they would like the handicap workshop, I thought you were meant somewhere like kind of like where Dennis works at?
It is. That's what it was like.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was like. I guess. I mean, I've never been to Dennis's place, but God knows I've heard enough about it. And it sounds like it was the exact same thing.
I mean,
and they were cliquey. I mean, well, number one, I think they took one look at me and went, well, he looks able-bodied, so that nobody really talked to me or anything. It was weird. That was my first job.
Like I know you've paved. Like I know you've done a bunch of stuff. I know you pumped gas.
Jesus.
Like I know you've done a bunch of stuff. I just didn't know what the first job you had was.
That was it.
Because like my first official job was working at Woody's when I was the dishwasher.
Oh, really?
Martin's sister got me the job working at Woody's when I was like 15, washing dishes. Because I remember coming home one day, like loading the dishwasher at the house after you and Mom ate dinner, and I was like, I got this. I'm a dishwasher. I remember being so proud that I knew what I was doing. But the first thing I ever did, I mean, aside from helping you at houses, the first thing I ever did for money was work with Chase.
Yeah.
Like digging footers and stuff with
Right.
Chase. Like that's. I mean, and at the time, we were making like Chase was paying us $7.50 an hour, and minimum wage was like $4.85.
Oh yeah.
Like when you're 14, we were making like, I'll skip school,
money.
give me a shovel, I'm out. Like,
That's like when I went to work for Nabisco. I mean, I was working in supermarkets. I worked in a plastic factory, and worked in a bunch of shitty places. But when I got the job at Nabisco, I mean, it was the same thing. It was like 3 times minimum wage. It was a union Teamster job, so you were union and you got good money. And back then benefits didn't mean anything to you because you weren't going to take advantage of them. You're young and healthy, and you don't need. But the older guys that stayed there, they loved it. Which I don't blame them. They was cradle to grave. They took care of you.
Yeah. Well, and you had the benefit of just having to bring some milk for lunch.
That's it. Bring a quart of milk and eat whatever's coming down the line. that was lunch. I'm surprised I'm not diabetic.
Every time I went up to New Jersey when I was a kid, every time it's the same. I hear the same story.
Oh, God,
it's like it's one of those like I'm almost sad that I haven't heard it in a long time. So when I saw the question, it was like young adulthood. What was your first job? I was hoping you were going to say Nabisco.
No, no, I had a lot of jobs before Nabisco. Got fired. Jesus, I can't think how many times I got fired.
You and me both, buddy.
Yeah, I got fired a lot.
You ever have any roommates? When you were like,
oh yeah,
I mean, because I know you have, obviously you have roommates in the army and shit like that.
Yeah. But before that, I had a friend, Phil Belpasso, and he talked me into moving to the Village. That was a hot spot in New York. It was be down in Greenwich Village, but it turned out it wasn't the Village. It was Avenue D, which is like really the Bowery, which is like even shittier than the Village. The Village is pretty bad, but the Bowery, my God, we got an apartment there, and I mean, it was people just knotted out in the in the hallways, junkies sleeping on the deal. We had an air conditioner. They stole the air conditioner out of the window. I mean, it was
out of the window.
Out of the window. Come up the fire escape and took the damn air conditioner. And it was summer because we were going to all the hot spots in the Village. So in that respect, it wasn't far. You could walk a couple, 3 blocks and you'd be right in the heart of the Village. Where it was all happening at the time. But to live there, wow, and he was like, "Don't leave me," because he couldn't afford the rent on his own.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was at the time I was working at Nabisco. And so I was only staying there pretty much like maybe 4 or 5 nights a week. And other than that, I'd crash at my dad's house because just too tired, to drive back over the city. But we live so close to the city. I mean, you could be there in half an hour,
Yeah.
So
I remember, when we went up to New Jersey, Bob and Bobby's house, because I remember going into the city. And it didn't feel like it was that long to get there. That means
no, it's 14
Jersey,
miles.
So, yeah.
To the city is 14 miles from our house. Bob and Bobby's further. They were more up North Jersey.
It's still funny whenever I think of New York City. Like one of the memories that pops up to me is being afraid of walking in front of every alleyway. Ever, because we had just watched Batman and the first Batman in the movie theater.
I'm Batman.
That's the first movie I remember seeing in a movie theater. I was just talking to somebody about that the other day. We were
that right?
Talking about what was your first movie you saw? And I was like, oh, dude, mine was the first Batman in 1989. I remember going to see it in the movie theater, and I remember being in, walking through New York and being afraid to walk in front of any one of the the alleyways, because that's where Bruce Wayne's parents got killed. And I couldn't lose you and Mom. I wasn't rich enough to be Batman.
No. No.
And then going to the Museum of Natural History really stands out
fun.
too, because it was cool, because I mean, I was a kid and I loved dinosaurs. You know, so you get to see all the dinosaurs.
That was
there.
very cool.
But the whale. The blue whale dangling from the ceiling.
you know, and it's still like a major thing there.
I mean, it's the biggest animal that's ever been on the planet ever, and they have one in there. You know,
Yeah.
it's the whole ceiling
Oh yeah. Well, you can tell they built that whole
around that
around that exhibit. But well, you know, when we took you to New York City, I remember we took you down to Wall Street. We went to the old churches down there. We went to we got Knish on the street there.
Had a Knish yesterday.
All right, all right.
Yesterday.
See, there you go. I didn't, but I could have.
Yeah, I try to turn.
I
Everybody
can't
on
have
to
them
him.
anymore. I'm not allowed potato. You know?
Yeah, I know. I try to turn everybody I can on to them though.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I would say probably 75% of the people I get to try one, they're like, "Oh man, this is really good." They've never had one before. Every now and again, gets me. It's like, "Oh, what is that?" It's like, well, it's not for everybody, I guess. But
No.
the majority of the people I get to try them, they dig them.
Oh yeah, they're good. Well, they're good at Bagel King. So
Well, yeah, you know, because I mean, I had Knishes in other places. It's just they're not as good as the ones at Bagel King. That being said, the ones up in New York off the cart were. Now, I was a kid, so size is kind of relative in
but
memory.
they're big.
Yeah, in my mind, that thing was a dinner
Knish is
plate.
a real meal up there.
Yeah, I mean, that thing was hefty. You know. How old? I know you got drafted to go into Vietnam. How old were you when you got drafted? 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
18.
How does that happen? Like, okay, I don't understand the steps of being like, yeah, because we don't. I didn't grow up with the draft.
Right.
So like, did you like fill out like a registration card and they pull a number? Like, I don't like. How do you even get notified?
When you were 18, by law, you had to go register for the draft. So you would go register, and then the way it was supposed to work was, or the way it worked from everybody I spoke to, you would go in, you'd register, then you'd get a call up that you would have to go to, like, I had to go to Newark, and they would give you they would rate you, because there's people 4F. They're not, they can't serve. They for physical, mental, whatever, they can't serve. So you would be like, I remember A. I don't remember what all the ratings were, but 4F, whatever. So it was A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever. And by that was the level at which they would draft you. If you were an A, obviously you were in good shape, you were young, and you didn't have. And the other thing was, people got deferments. If you were in college, or something like that, then even if you were an A, they would give you a deferment because you had to finish college. They didn't want to break that up. So,
yeah.
But I had no college or anything. So at 18, I was an A. And then I was told by other people that had been through it that after that evaluation, you'd go home and wait for to be called up. So I went, and I should have known, because I got a thing saying, I'll never forget, it said, your friends and neighbors have chosen you to represent them in the armed forces of the United States because of the draft. So I go down to get my rating, and they took me in. I didn't even have a fucking toothbrush. I thought I was going home that night. You know what I mean? I had nothing. My car was sitting in the parking lot in Newark. I don't want to take the bus. I drove my own car. I'll drive home later, I had to call my dad and say, oh, I don't know what happened.
I got kidnapped.
Because my dad thought I was coming home. That's just the way it was. But when they got me, they just took me. So, boom. You didn't have time to think about it. You were just, 1 minute you were a civilian, and the next minute you were marching. That was quite the thing.
I mean, it's weird. It's like, I guess if I was in that situation and I was going to get drafted, I would rather be right now than go home and wait. You know what I mean?
Well,
like, it's almost ripping off the Band-Aid
to a degree, but you know what I mean? It's like, well, that's why people enlist. A lot of people enlisted because they knew they were going to get drafted.
Yeah.
And if you enlisted, you could get the job, you could apply for the job you wanted and stuff. When you get drafted, you're just fodder. They don't get, I was fortunate. I lucked out and got that whole gig of doing, aircraft stuff.
Well, I remember you telling me that, like, when you guys were in line, they were like telling people where they were going, and somebody said Marine, so somebody laughed, like, "Oh, Marine," like, or whatever.
The guy was crying.
Yeah.
They had us count off by tens, and they said, okay, 1 through 6, you're going in the Army. 7, 8, you're going in the Navy. 9, you're going in the Air Force, and 10, you're going in the Marines. And the guy just started bawling. And then one of the guys that was like a 6 or a 5 in front of me, he started laughing, and he goes, "You funny boy, you're a Marine." He goes, "You're not good enough to be a Marine." It kicked him back to the Army. and I bet he was happy. He may have cried, but I bet he was happy. Oh yeah, we were in there. A guy passed out during the blood test. They're taking blood samples and shit. He passes out. They got him on a little couch there while they're working. One medic looks at another one and goes, "We better get it now." So they take his blood right while he's out, and then he wakes up and gets back online. He's standing online waiting to go because he didn't know. Somebody says something to him. "Oh, you don't have to go in there. You already gave blood." And he goes, "What?" And they go, "Yeah, they took your blood." And he looks down and he saw the Band-Aid. Pass that again. Pass that again. That's not a guy you want with you in a trench. You know what I mean?
No, I guess not. So, how did you meet Mom?
I was college. I started college at William Patterson in Wayne, and I'd only been there, I don't know, maybe a month or so. And I'd met some people, but I was way older, than most people because I'd been in the Army, and then I'd worked at Hewlett-Packard. And then, after Woodstock, I decided I would go to college just because I didn't want to work anymore, basically. It wasn't for higher education. It was just so I could lay low. So, so I was in college, and I've been there about a month. I met a few people, and one of the people I met was a kid that I knew. He was like maybe a year or two under me in high school, and he was there, finishing up college. So even though he was younger than me, he knew the lay of the land in college more than I did, and he knew a friend of Linda's. She was in a sorority. He was in a fraternity. So, and that's a big deal in college if you care.
And that's how Mom's like friends with Bobby and whatnot. Right?
Yeah, they're all frat sisters or what do you call it, sorority sisters. So anyway, I met one of the girls, Sharon, who we wound up later on all of us living together. But I met Sharon, and she was nice. She was always like, whenever she'd see me, she'd make a thing about seeing me. So I went over to see Sharon on the ground, and Mom was sitting there. They were best friends, and Mom was sitting on the ground next to her. And I'll never forget, I looked at her, and I was like, she had these hideous green pants on that, like, if you were wearing these pants, you were making a statement, and but she was so cute. She was sitting there, and she had this giant purse that she had full of weed or something, because she was the person who carried all the weed for everybody.
Yeah.
And she wasn't really much of a smoker, so they trusted her with weed. And she was sitting there, and I remember just talking to her, saying hi. I don't think I talked to her. I think I just said hi. And then later on, which I really don't remember, I guess some point at the student union or something, we were sitting around, the three of us or more, and got talking just as people. But I pretty much just like thought, man, this girl's really cool. I just really she impressed the shit out of me just by being her, and she would keep saying that, like, oh, I think, I don't know what the deal was. She didn't trust my instincts that I really, really was attracted to her, and took her a long time to warm up to me.
It took Mom a while to warm up to me.
That's not true. Funny thing was, she was really happy to have you.
Oh, I know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I love Mom. Like, I do.
Oh, yeah,
I love
yeah.
Mom. I love Mom so much. But my whole life, I've been afraid of Mom. Not so much anymore, but you know what I mean? Like,
Right. Oh, yeah.
I was afraid of Mom. It's one of those, like, I'm not telling Mom I fucked up. I would call you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm afraid of Mom. So.
Okay. At least it's not just me.
No. Actually, I'm not afraid of Mom, but I know Mom can get jacked up pretty good.
Yeah. What was your first date with Mom? Do you remember?
I went to I don't think we really had a date. We were in college. It's just everybody's floating. I remember going to I went to a dance with her, I think. And at that point in time, I must have been stupid enough to think I could dance. And I remember her dancing with her, and then leaving with her, and I think I drove her home. She was with the other girl. I think I drove her home. That was been like kind of a date. That's about all I can remember. We never really made dates per se.
All right. So there's a couple of things in here that I saw that, because we have a limited time for you got to go home. So I'm gonna just cut to some of those. Like, one of the questions that stood out to me when I first saw this thing is your first year of being a dad.
Mm-hmm.
What was the hardest thing about it, and what was the best thing about it, if you can remember those? Like, first year of being a dad.
The first year I was a dad, you were a tough baby. You had this thing where you couldn't hold food down, formula, whatever. You were always throwing it back up, and it was something where your epiglottis or something wasn't fully formed.
Still there.
Really? I was going to say, because they said, you would grow out of it, no problem. Apparently they lied.
Yeah.
So, but I remember, I was working. We're so fortunate because, we didn't have any money, and we couldn't have paid a hospital bill. But I had just gotten a job at the phone company, and they had good benefits. And I was there when you were born, I think I was there 90 days. And that was enough. Now I had benefits, so they paid for all that. So I remember that vividly, because we were stressing about how we were going to pay for you. But then after you were born, I don't really remember that much about, being a father, as much as I remember that was a really stressful year, because the phone company liked me, and they wanted me to go up. They kept promoting me. So I was constantly doing new jobs and stuff. So I really wasn't involved like I probably would have liked to have been, with you as a baby. I remember coming home to you as a baby, but, as far as that went, my hours were really long, and I was, they wanted me to be a manager, and then they wanted me to be a director or whatever, you know what I mean? And I got all kind of, like, I got sent to Chicago for a week. And Mom couldn't come because you were a baby. And I felt really kind of bad about it, because they would have paid for both of us to come. We were staying in the presidential suite. It was really cool because the president of the company was, I don't know, he didn't believe in gambling or some shit. I don't remember. But so they sent me. So, I'm out traveling, doing stuff, for a job that, was good. It was paying well, and, in the long run, it was a great deal. But at the time, I kind of felt like I really wasn't being a father. I was just too busy doing other stuff. I don't think I felt like I was a father until maybe you were 2 or 3. And then, because I got out of the phone company, I worked for the plastics company over in Merritt Island.
Yeah.
And then I spent a lot of time with you, and I brought you the peanuts and stuff to roll around in.
Like, it's weird for me, because I've always been kind of thankful you got hurt. Not thankful that you got hurt, but it's like you and Mom kind of switched gender roles, so to speak, in the 80s. Because you were home with me.
Right,
like, you were the one that was there. Like, I remember, like I distinctly remember you riding the scooter away from the bus stop. Like, you were always the one that made me waffles in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember getting to hang out with you a lot.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody the other day, I was when I stabbed myself with the butter knife trying to cut open the hot dogs. Like, I remember running to you and be like, Dad, and you were trying to grab it. I was like, no, I want Mom.
I couldn't do anything. I was in a hospital bed.
Yeah, I know. I
remember I had that long stick for a remote, and I could reach all the way across the room like a pool cue and push the buttons on the TV.
Yeah. Well, that's like your hum and whistle, because I remember putting my dinosaurs up, and you would hum, whistle, and shake the hospital bed. That was like my time machine,
Yeah, that was cool. The time machine was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Those are some of my earliest memories too. You know what I mean?
See,
they're not my earliest, but they're some of my most vivid of being a kid.
Well, that was good, because like I said, I didn't have much involvement with you when you were a baby. That first couple 3 years, I was just too busy on the career path,
Yeah.
I also need both of you to make that sound in the microphones. Like at the same time.
Yours is better than mine.
You can work on it.
I've been doing it my whole life, and I can't because your whistle's better than mine. Because you can do like the finger whistle with no fingers,
Right.
and I can't whistle like that. Like I whistle by blowing in.
Well, I can't do the.
Yeah, like mine's
I'm
in.
Not that, I'm not that. Oh, it's in?
Yeah, when I whistle, I breathe in. I don't blow out.
Wow.
That's me breathing in.
Man.
That's out.
Well, it's not that much difference.
It's because I'm getting better at blowing out. But for the longest
Need
time,
to
I
take
couldn't do it.
harmonica.
I mean, I have played with a harmonica forever, and I just can't. It's like because it's so minute as far as like the movements.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you got to get real. Like I've always like John Popper, the guy that's the front man
Right.
for Blues Traveler. That man can destroy a harmonica, and I love watching that guy play.
I was worked in a gas station with a kid, and his dad was a friend of the owner, and his dad was one of the original Harmonicats, which was an all harmonica band. And his dad would come down and play harmonica, and he'd bring the big slide harmonicas, where you can change pitch,
Tone, yeah.
tone. I mean, that guy was unbelievable. And he'd just sit there and wick off some killer thing, or he'd do some classical music with it. I mean, he could do whatever in his mind he could blow out through that harmonica. I was impressed.
Yeah, I think me being a musician, I don't know if that you guys like because you and mom you both love music so much, but neither one of you are musicians.
No.
So I don't know if like somewhere somehow
Mom played piano.
Oh, I didn't know that. Mom has
hell
never
yeah.
told me that ever.
Really?
You would think of all the stuff mom would have said. Oh, yeah.
That was the worst. That was the worst thing. We had to sell our piano when we moved to Florida.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Yeah. I bought her a little keyboard. She didn't care for it. She played piano. I don't know. I can't say that she was, Rachmaninoff or something.
Well,
but
whatever.
she, but she played.
Yeah, because I mean, you still to this day, you guys go to shows.
When
I mean,
we
you go to shows more than I do.
Oh yeah. Well, when we went to sell her piano, a friend of mine, we loaded it into a van with a sliding side door on it, and she played piano all the way to the place where I don't even remember where we sold it to, but and every time we get to a red light, people would pull up, and there she is playing the piano in the van.
That's kind of cool.
Oh, it was way
That's
cool.
pretty cool, yeah.
I felt terrible though. I really just always thought I should get her a piano, but then, how Mom is. When Mom flips the page,
Yeah, when she's done, she's done.
She's
But
done.
If she's on, boy,
right.
she's on.
Oh yeah, and I think that's what it was with piano. When she was on. But then once she sold it, she didn't have any more use. Didn't care.
See, I didn't know that. I thought that your guys' love for music became this weird DNA thing that landed in me and made me make it.
Well, it might have, and to some degree. I mean, I just like live music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I don't listen to the radio. You get in my car, it's quiet. I don't listen to the radio. I don't have, you know what I mean? I don't have the need for music as a distraction. When I'm driving. You know, that's my thing. But I, years ago when I was your age, Jesus, I had, I still have tons of records and stuff. We had,
you guys had
but
that
we've done
closet.
live shows forever.
Yeah, I don't remember what my first concert was. In my brain, I keep saying that it's the Stray Cats, but I don't think that's right.
That's right.
Is it right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember being like 6
Yeah.
or 7 and going to this concert and just thinking, man, this is really loud. You know what I mean? Like that's all I could remember was it was really loud.
Well, I took you to Stray Cat. It was Stray Cats, Nick Lowe in his cowboy suit, and Elvis Costello. And that was your first. That was your
Because
first.
the Stray
concert.
Cats stood out, but for some reason I kept thinking
they
that
were-
was my second one, not my first one.
No, they were the big thing. That was in the High Lie.
Yeah.
That was at the High Lie down in was it Castleberry? I guess.
Well, it's gone now, but yeah.
Is it gone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's still Dog Track Road.
Oh
But
yeah.
all that's
Dog
gone.
Track's gone. Yeah.
But it's still Dog Track Road. They never changed that.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't changed it to North Lake Road because of the big Christian
School that's there?
Well, it's more than a school. I think that used to be a go-kart track. That was a good go-kart track. Went all up in the woods and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Oh, it was
There's
cool.
a little 500s over there, kind
was-
of, but
Yeah,
it
no,
is-
this was like cut through the woods. It was cool.
Huh.
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of it was, but we used to go there at night. It was it was really barely lit. Yeah, I mean, so when you went ripping through there, I mean, you had to have your shit together because these turns would come up on you, and they're pretty dark.
Brandon yesterday, because we went to Brandon's house last night for game night and whatnot. Brandon's got that side by side, and it's crazy.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
me and Bernadette rode with him just down the road, and it's 65 miles an hour. So
yeah,
fast.
yeah, they're powerful.
So fast, and we're and that's where the governor's out on that thing. And Brandon's like, "Oh, dude, I'll do 40, 45 through the trails back there," because it's me and Bernadette both were like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 it's a little too fast, man."
Yeah.
But that thing, it's got like 2 feet of travel in the arms. It's built to rally, But when
But
you're
then
the
again,
passenger,
you're with Brandon.
well, when you're
So,
the passenger, it's a
right.
little, at least
And
if you're
with
driving and
Brandon.
you're okay.
He doesn't
but if you're
know
with
the
Brandon,
he don't know the limits till he finds them.
yeah, well, he's pushing them.
I was gonna say he's found him a few
I love
times.
that kid, but he's a liability.
He's a good boy.
He is a good boy. He's he is one of my favorite people on this planet.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
Yeah. So one of the podcasts that I listen to is called The Honeydew, and it's this guy, and it's like, it's like the opposite of Instagram. So he has these people come on and he talks to them about, they call it highlighting the lowlights. Because, Instagram, everybody's like, this is my best life, blah, blah, blah. So he
Right.
talks to people about, like,
Your worst life.
their worst, some of their worst times. But he always, like, when he has somebody new come on, he always asks them, like, one of the things he asks them is like, if you could go back in time and give your 16-year-old self a piece of advice, what do you think that would be? And I think that I'm going to steal that from Mr. Sickler. Thank you, Ryan Sickler. And I'm going to ask you, if you could go back in time and give your 16-year-old self, a piece of advice, what do you think it would be?
Don't be a dick,
That's good advice.
because I was a dick. Don't be a dick. Take. Best thing I ever did was leave New Jersey because, I mean, my friends were great people, but a lot of them were just crazy as shit. You know what I mean? And you start they're all dead now. All dead. I don't know any of them that I hung with that are alive. They're all dead. And they all died poorly. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you just, when you're 16, you don't realize how you're being a turd,
Yeah.
really affects other people.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, I know.
yeah. So
Yeah.
So I'm sure you'd probably give the same advice.
I would give myself the exact same advice. I'd be like, dude, calm down.
hey.
Get your shit together, man.
There it is.
Okay. One thing that I wanted to kind of ask you, but it's not for me. I want to ask you this for Mom. If you're not around and you could say one thing to Mom after you're gone, what would it be? Like, just if you could think of one thing, and not one sentence.
I would say, if anything, I would just say, please be happy. Take the time for yourself to be happy. She's devoted so much time to me, and I'm not talking just now when I'm in bad shape, but in general. She's always done more for me. I always felt like than I could ever do for her. So if she had time, enjoy the time, and hopefully she would,
Yeah.
because she has way more outside interests than I do. So
Yeah.
it'd be good for her.
Well, I'll try to make her.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I'm counting on both of you to hold up the end when I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, I don't want you to be gone, but life is what it is.
No
And
one
it's
gets
gonna
out
happen
alive.
eventually.
No one gets out alive.
That being said, when you are, I got this.
Oh, I'm knowing that. That's what I'm saying. You have no idea how nice that is to know that in life. To know that if you left tomorrow, it'll be fine. A lot of people.
Well, it ain't gonna be fine, but you know what I mean.
Well,
We'll
it'll
okay.
be fine. It'll be fine.
I love you.
Yeah, I love you too.
And thank you
buddy.
for coming to do this.
Oh, I'm impressed. I could have just sat here and done this all day.
Well, yeah. Well, and you got shit to do, but that's still I've been telling everybody how excited I am to do this with you, and I didn't want to do anything out here until I did this with you.
Well, I look forward to session 2.
Yeah. Well, me too. Me too. But asking you about Mom, I knew that was going to be hard for me.
Yeah. Well, but you got it out. And that
Yeah.
was good.
So, and I'm good with it.
Well, me too.
At the moment, yeah.
I've made peace with whatever's going to happen. I just don't. I just never thought I'd just spool out like this, and I never did. I figured a heart attack or something would just take me out, and I'd be done. Instead, I'm just spooling down, and that's kind of beat.
Yeah, well,
If you get a choice, skip that one. If you get a choice,
go out in a blaze.
go out in a blaze. That's it. What do they say? Better to burn out than rust.
Yeah, well, yeah, that makes sense too. That being said, selfishly, I'm glad that you're still here.
Oh, me too.
Not glad you're
see
still
now.
back.
You don't realize on occasion I get really happy about still being here. I always cross my fingers because I'm thankful that I'm here. But then every now and then there's something that is bad. I mean, really, I've done without 3 days of sleep. I'm in bad shape today.
Well, like when I talked to you this morning, that's why I
this
told you
made me
you
a
wanted to
happy
do this.
camper.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I'm thankful for that.
Good, because when I talked to you this morning,
thing to be thankful
you
for.
sounded kind of rough. That's why I asked if you wanted
Oh,
to
that
do
was
this on
rough.
another day.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to come in here and feel like you had to force anything either. But
No. I was looking forward to it. I would have done it no matter what. Your mom said, she goes, you should just try and sleep. And I'm like, I can't sleep now. It's daytime. I don't want to be upside down, so I'll have to make it till tonight and see if I sleep.
Yeah, as it is, I got to go to bed early because I got to be up early tomorrow. We have one of our lead dispatchers. She's retiring soon. Like, she's just waiting on her first check to come in from Social Security. And then she told us all that yesterday. She's out. She's like, I'm just here on borrowed time now. I'm out. And then in May, one of our other route drivers, he's retiring. And then Frank, the guy that I told you reminds me of, of like the whole Jersey side of the family. He had just had a piece of his lung removed. And he's having a house built. And
Dang, he's got a full
the Margaritaville place, over
yeah.
there. Yeah, had a house built. So as soon as the house is done, because they, you buy the model and then you go through your options or whatever. So once it's done, because he's 66 years old too. So once it's done, he's going to retire. So we got 3 people. They're going to be out of there pretty soon. And Jason's moving into D's spot, like the other guy that does dispatch. So he's moving into the lead spot. So he's learning a bunch of stuff. So now I'm going to be in there with them for probably, right, not this week. This week I'm in there just Monday, but I'm sure once she leaves, I'll probably be in there with them for at least a couple of weeks till they find somebody. So, which is cool because I like being there because I'm in there with Doug and Jason. I have a blast when I'm in there with those two. Minus the phone ringing, but otherwise we have a good time.
Right. The phone doesn't ring that much, does it?
Yeah, but
really?
you'll have bouts where it won't ring for an hour, and then all of a sudden you'll end up with 25 phone calls in an hour and a half. Yeah. So it's almost like working a restaurant where it's like you'll go from like a lull to like slammed, whereas when I'm doing a route, it's not that way. It's not that at all. I'm just cruising, Then, you were talking about not listening to music. I don't listen to music when I'm working. I put on a podcast because if I'm listening to music and it's a good song and it's got me like amped up all the way down, I'm speeding.
Yeah.
I'm in a company car. I can't do that.
That might be one of the reasons why I don't listen to it too, because I used to find myself the same thing.
Yeah.
Certain driving tunes make you get up on the wheel. Exactly.
Yeah. But if I'm a fly on the wall listening to a couple comedians tell jokes or whatever, then I'm just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just kind of background noise as opposed to just listening
Fly on the
to
wall. Yeah, that's a good description of that.
One last thing. Where did that thing go that you got? When we were at Hobby Lobby, because we were getting stuff for the set or whatever. Yeah. And this, like with the centerpiece, we had the idea that whenever we have somebody come in, we're gonna have a different centerpiece for whoever it is. So that one's yours. There was another one that was like this gray, like race car, like open top race car, and it kind of looks like the new car that you have down there. So I thought about getting that one. Then I saw that, I was like, we're gonna get that.
That's a good one.
And then she saw that. So, and I know Mom doesn't want to give you any more shit to hang on the wall, but this seemed perfect.
That's pretty good. The man, the myth. That is really it.
The man, the myth, and Mr. Fix It.
That's it.
Because she wrote the man, the myth, the legend on your chalkboard when you're in the hospital.
That's why I haven't erased it.
Yep.
That means a lot to me. Usually we keep that up to date, but Mom said, well, we got to leave it till at least my next birthday. I said, then I know I've made it a year.
Yeah. Well, March, when did you end up? Because you ended up in the hospital like March 8th or something last year,
week.
right? Well, I knew it was
first weekend of bike week.
Yeah. I don't remember, because I could look on my phone because I have the pictures of when we went to Sonny's the day before you ended up in the hospital. So I could look at the date of when I took that picture. And you know what I mean? Because then I know it was the next day you ended up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we all went to Sonny's for, I don't remember what it was for, but we all went out to go eat at Sonny's.
It was somebody's birthday or something. We were all there together.
Yeah.
And that was the last good meal I had.
Yeah.
Well, my taste went to shit. So, even now I don't taste anything like I did then. Dialysis changed my taste forever.
I thought, honestly, when we all went out for your anniversary, that was good.
Oh, that was good.
That was good. That was a good time.
That was fun.
That was a good time.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have the picture of you and Mom, like with Mom holding the gold up. It's still in my brain. I was like, "That's a little tiny piece of gold for how much that cost."
Well, I was just watching the other day on TV. They're selling 5 grams, right, on TV with some gold, deal investment thing. 5 grams for $799. Okay, 28 grams is that ounce.
Yeah, you got an ounce.
Exactly. So it's more than 5 times that much if you bought an ounce and you only paid, 23. And now it's worth about 27. It's already come up.
See, look at that. Not only did you give Mom a really cool gift, you gave her an investment. Which
Makes
Mom happy.
Well, she doesn't know. She didn't pay any attention.
Well, no, but you know what I mean. It's still.
But I want her to have that because that was just, to me, that was like, that was it. She's solid gold to me.
It was, that was cool, man.
She's not 18 karat. She's solid gold.
Yeah. Well, like with us having to get it, when it was
it was great.
We were all about it.
You guys bailed me out on that because I had no luck. Even Aunt Claire had no luck. She was trying.
And it took me 3 or 4 people to talk to before I found it, because people would make you an ingot from melting down jewelry, but you're not going to get a solid 24. You know what I mean?
Right. You're not going to get 99%.
No, you're going to get piecework stuff. Yeah. So then that lady, she had that one, and I was like, okay, we're on the way.
I've actually thought about buying another one just because it's cool, but I wouldn't really. I'll never do that. I can find someplace else to spend the $2,000. That's for sure.
All right, man. Well, I love you.
I love you too. I've had a great time.
Yeah, me too.
You guys have really done a great job.
Thanks, man.
And it's so professional. It's like
I built some shit.
I know you did, man. You really built some shit.
Having her with the eye for how to, the color contrast, things like that. Because I would have just painted everything in here dark blue and gone with it.
No, I know,
But I do like having the dark on this side, having the light over there. Like it's a.
It's kind of cool.
Yep.
It's 2 different, if you set this all up over there, it looks like a different place.
Yep.
Yeah. Still need some plants.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what's funny? She's got the plant. Because when we were in Hobby Lobby, I was looking at fake plants.
Yeah. They're the easiest ones to take care of.
Well, yeah, especially for out here, because you don't have to worry about water and that kind of shit. I thought about maybe putting a fake plant in the middle or what, a little plant here or something like that. But
plants are expensive.
They are not cheap.
No, fake plants, man, they're way more than real plants.
Yeah. Well, before we lowered this down, because the cable, the wire, was real visible down the wall. So I thought about getting hanging plants to put under it to hide the wire.
Right.
But that's so high. What happened? Is it done?
Hanging plants.
Oh, hanging plants? Okay. Yeah, because this, it was up there so high, it wasn't even in shot. So that's why we lowered it down. I didn't have to worry about it anymore. But that's also why I put my block party from when we did the big thing with the 102 jams over there in Daytona.
Yeah.
That's why I put that there.
And I see your Brian Sickler.
The Ryan Sickler thing, yeah. That was such a fun night.
Excuse me. Yeah, I know you were saying that.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah.
Now,
all right, well, I better get going.
Yeah, let me get you home for
I don't want to
man.
leave Mom down there by herself. She'll always say, I'm not entertaining these people. Well, they're your friends. Nah, they're our friends.
I would say Artie and Maggie, they're everybody.
This is cool. Could have saved it for next month and give it to me for my birthday.
No, we'll get you something different for your birthday.
I love it. That's really cool.
Because I had it down here, so we could just hand it to you.
Oh, well, hell, we should have had it here between us.
You know what's funny? I thought about putting it here.
Well, yeah, I got to drill it.
It's not like, glaringly brighter, but
I don't know. Those things are like, they should be landing here any moment. Not many people do that.
Yeah.
Oh, getting a shot.
yeah.
There you go.
Burn that.
I feel like I'm under lily pads, like I'm a fish. and I'm under lily pads. And then there's another fish looking at me.
Yeah, the big one.
The big one. It's going to eat me.